So, let's talk a bit about the project you're getting involved in. I know we can't speak too much about it, as you mentioned, but maybe you can just tell us how you came into that project. How did you get involved with this project at GoogleX?
Mm-hmm. So I'm working, like as I mentioned, 20% on the project about kind of building up healthy relationships between human and nature. So we're using like advanced data science and AI to solve different things with insect pollinators and so on. That's really exciting. I found it really like it was a random thing. The good thing about Google has lots of Google Talks at Google things, so it brings lots of people, for example, like Garry Kasparov or like some astronauts to give a talk within a company. And like this time I went to a talk with Jack Hidary, who's the director of quantum computing attacks, and he was giving a talk about like the future of quantum computing. It was really exciting and interesting. And I went with a friend of mine randomly to grab a coffee, and we have like big coffee place, and we were sitting there, and then he was passing by and kind of looking for people to maybe chat with, and I was kind of staring at him. He also knew a friend of mine, and he came to us and started talking, and then somehow we ended up grabbing a dinner with him and a bunch of like famous people. And I think it's like pure luck. It didn't happen to me like before. It was like magical kind of experience. Then I met lots of interesting people there, and I was reaching out to program managers at X, chasing them, like, hey, you told like so many like cool projects you've got, and like can I start maybe working 20% on one of those because I want to kind of grow on what I know currently, and it will be very interesting. And eventually it worked out. They connected me to one of those projects, and it sounded really cool. And I started working on the project like a year ago, and still kind of working on that, and really exciting.
That's amazing. I think listening to that, and you mentioned luck, but if I actually look into it, I think it's a bit of initiative. You took the initiative to get involved in that, and I think that's really inspiring to people to see, hey, I don't have to just stick in the boxes. I can also reach out and connect with these types of people, and also a bit of sort of the environment that a company like Google creates. These inflection points for serendipity, these random points where you can meet someone and a spark can light up, and so that's really great.
Yeah, definitely. It's like shots on goal, right? You mentioned so you reach out to all these people, right? So I guess I bet it wasn't the first time you did that, right? But it was the one that ended up working out.
Yes, I was looking for other 20% projects and was looking for an interesting one. So and this one I like the most, and chose this. So I think initiative really plays a huge role in that. But I think I'm really grateful for the company to creating this kind of environment when you can meet other people, and I think it's huge. And it's a bit kind of not working as well, for example, during the pandemic. So because people can't really meet in person or something, so there's different pathways for that. But I'm looking forward to going to conferences or different meetups where you can randomly to find a person, and they usually change your life. And I think lots of kind of big changes in life happened randomly to me, and and I'm really grateful for that.
So I guess for those of us looking for companies to join, or even starting our own companies, or trying to make change within our companies, what are those things that lead to that environment, right? You mentioned 20% as a policy, but I'm sure there's sort of a softer side to that as well.
Yeah, so I think if you want to create your own company, it's all in kind of your hands. So you can just start pursuing your dreams and create one. So and it's interesting if you start talking about this to different people. Everyone tries to help you, with that, and it's great how it works. So before, like when I was I think younger, I was like always thinking that startuppers is like people who I don't know, don't like have an idea, they don't want to tell anyone, they sit and like try secretly code this idea and make it work. I think in reality it works completely opposite. So you first have an idea, you talk to like everyone about this, and then they all give you input, and it's like a community thing which is growing. It's like kind of fluid, or snowball, which is getting bigger and bigger, and it's changing shapes all the time. And then if you keep pushing it hard with the help of other people, and other people also joining your kind of company and a dream, it eventually becomes something big. And this is really magical moment for me, because it's great because everyone is kind of involved into that. And
I actually agree with that, definitely. Cool. I think a lot of people, well, maybe not a lot of people, but some people think that it's more about, you know, being in competition and keeping it a secret, and I think that is sort of not a recipe for success.
You want to sort of grow the whole pie.
It's about growing the whole pie, exactly.
But I guess sort of one thing is interesting, sort of like you described the startup as this magical experience, right? Like the snowball effect that keeps going. But it's actually really interesting, sort of wanting to get your sense on the other side of it as well, right? Because you ask people like Elon Musk, what do you think of startups? And he's like, it's like eating glass, right?
Yeah.
And it seems like
staring into the abyss.
Exactly. So sort of this like thing that seems really difficult, right? So I guess it's not all sunshine and rainbows. So like, can you talk a bit about sort of that darker side of it as well?
Yeah, like I personally didn't experience that much of a darker side yet, because I'm like still working on the early stage. But I think if you want to change the world, you don't have like enough knowledge for everything by definition, like, because if you like trying to do something big which wasn't done before, and also it should be like every day like being punched in the face and eating glass. I believe into that, and but in reality it's also could be rewarding at the same time. So if you're really loving what you're doing, you will be on track, and otherwise it's not going to be interesting, right? So if you like hope and it worked.
You need that journey, that struggle to develop.
And it's also good to have a team with you, like you mentioned. It's not really about being isolated, and it's not a one-man army. It's about collaboration, not competition. It's about growing the pie, not how much of the pie you're getting, and I think that's what's important at the end of the day.
It's definitely community contribution. It's all about people.
Contribution, yeah. So you mentioned that in this project you're working on, it involves AI. To be honest, I'm not that familiar with what exactly that means, and I'll just be curious to understand a bit about what it means to work in AI, and for someone who doesn't understand that, or let's say, how do you get into that? How do you start working? How do you move from being a software engineer into AI?
I think I'm still software engineer, so I'm primarily working on all the kind of infrastructure related things, like building data processing pipelines, creating like different data storages, and doing front end as well. It's not like a
It's not a big switch. So you're saying a lot of the stuff is transferable skills, or is it a whole new? This is someone looking from the outside, trying to understand what it means when someone says, I'm working in AI, or I'm working on an AI project. Like what does that entail?
It just says that you apply some like machine learning or deep learning to solve some like real life problems. So you usually but this concept is so broad. It's like could be like saying I'm working in IT.
It's like almost meaningless, right? Not more specification. One thing that's interesting is like at sort of one of my companies I used to work at, they said sort of AI is like 78% data pipelines and like wrestling with data. It's 20% like thinking through and debugging, and like 10% the actual like cool sexy stuff you actually do, right?
That's true, yeah. It feels like that. There's lots of work working on collecting the data you need, like processing, like cleaning it up, and so on. And there's also there's lots of work towards creating the right kind of models that would work for that thing. And we have brilliant researchers in the team who have a like great background in deep learning and could
So
like working with that data.
how does someone move from, you know, let's say being a developer or, you know, working in with that sort of thing, get into AI?
I guess that's also like a skill basically. So if you can do programming and know a little bit of math, then you can, for example, take like courses. There's lots of different ones.
So for someone who's not in the field of AI or, you know, software engineering, how could I deepen my knowledge about the space?
First of all, like you need to get into a little bit of a software engineering. Probably you should be able to code a little bit in Python and maybe some other languages, and then you can take courses, for example, like machine learning or AI, like deep learning, introduction, and the area of like AI is also very diverse. There's like so many different things happening there, so you need to kind of have a broader view into what's happening and then choose the course, for example, or find people in this kind of area. And
any platforms that you recommend? Any places people like for someone wanting to take their first AI course? I know it's broad, but any specific platforms that you recommend?
Yeah, there's like Udacity, like one big platform. There's Coursera, for example. There's like AI course by Andrew M. There's like Stanford courses like CS2 or something, for example, about like computer vision or natural language processing. That's could be very interesting.
So I think so. Continuing on this, right? Obviously, I guess your background is primarily software engineering, and you're working with this team of, I guess, amazing like AI researchers and developers, right? So I guess as someone who's maybe like technical or even like not as technical, how do you work with a team or a person that's so deeply technical in their specific field, right? And how do you learn to sort of both trust that they're producing the right results and also learn some of that for yourself as well?
So, like, even though people like really deep into the field, they have a basic knowledge about like certain things. So you can distribute your work in a way that, for example, one person is doing one thing, the other doing the other thing. You can create a, like, I don't know, anything like document describing a certain things, how it's gonna look like, design document, for example, and distribute tasks among people who is kind of the best fit for that or has capacity working on that. And usually it works.
So maybe there are any books you can recommend or some you're reading now and you're really excited about?
So like coming back to the books that kind of changed my life, for example, I really like, this is a fanfic written by Elizara Yudkowsky. It's called Harry Potter and Methods of Rationality. So this is really good book. I read it multiple times and I feel it's like really life-changing. The plot is about this is the same like Harry Potter universe, but the difference is that like Harry Potter is a mathematician.
It's very niche.
It
sounds like a good book.
It's very niche book for lots of fun. I know like people who like the like original Harry Potter potentially like would have a conflict of the
copyrights.
Not the copyright, but they like the original one and they don't like that it's happening in the same universe in like a different one.
Is John Rowling fine with this, by the way?
I think it's fine. The book is really great. It's Harry Potter is a mathematician and is a rationalist as well. Is like every chapter in the book has some sort of math concept in it. Like for example, and it has references to actual papers. For example, you can see like Fermi paradox is like that thing, and Harry tries to leverage all those like math knowledge to kind of crack the reality and like challenge everything.
So instead of magic, it's math and science.
Currently, I'm reading about like 2 books I read in 2 in a time. One is about like category theory for programmers. It's like about category theory, which is like one of the bases, maybe like related to functional programming. And the other book I'm reading is by Ocean Ramsey about sharks. The book is she's a like very famous marine biologist and like marine conservation like expert, living in Hawaii and like swimming every day with like different sharks. And it's a really great book because people are afraid of sharks, and at the same time it's not many people killed by sharks, but every year humans kill 100 million sharks because of the like shark fins and so on. So we are kind of killing our planet, and this is, I feel, essential to read. It's really interesting.
Sounds like a good book. Definitely will add it to the list.
Yeah, so I think it's time now for the big question. What is your blueprint?
My blueprint is maybe kind of do more what you really like, not trying to do kind of things that look kind of sexy and like overhyped, but more like if you feel there's something in it and you want to do this, like just do it. Also, I think there's like good quote called like there are no adults in the room. So it feels like when I was like a kid, you think that there's always other people who's gonna look after you or gonna care about things. For example, I don't know, global warming, you can rely on other people kind of solving these problems for you. But I feel in reality it's like the same happening like with governments. You see like some countries are completely messed up because I feel people not thinking that they actually can change their lives. They're relying on other people to change it for them, and it's apparently in reality kind of fails. So my point is to try be on top of your things and solve problems for you, like yourself, and less rely on other people, because even if you see like very senior person, it doesn't mean that they know all the answers or something like that.
So basically, you know, also you mentioned the tragedy of the commons and how it's up to each of us to take action, and I think that's a really inspiring thing to say to people. So it's us, we are the ones who make change, we are the ones who need to, you know, take action. And even the book you recommended about you know, the sharks and us protecting our seas, and I think that's really great. And it's amazing to see. Well, I don't know too much about the project you're working on, but I know that it sounds impactful. From the LinkedIn bio, you can see it involves insects and AI, and I'm sure you'll do very well, and we're all wishing you the best, and you know, here to support you, and and it's been really great, you know, chatting to you, and I'm sure you've inspired a lot of people, and thank you so much.
Thanks so much for hosting me. It's been really great chatting to you.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Thanks everyone for watching this video. If you like it, please share it with your friends, grandma, your cat. If you'd like to donate, there's a link to Children Cancer Leukemia Group in the description.